Welcome to Spoken Synergy. This is the podcast where we talk about how creativity and intuition are bringing magic to people's lives. We are recording on Wanjerabara country, where we pay respect to the Indigenous elders past, present and emerging. We have Ryan from Mountain Peak Media here doing all the technical side, which we're truly grateful for. What a legend. And today our guest is Steve Willis, aka LIGHTWIZARD. He's here to talk about everything creativity with us. Stevie, how you going? How you feeling?
Hello, I'm feeling well. I'm feeling very excited.
Are you?
Feeling very excited. Actually, a bit, there's a tinge of nerves as well.
Oh,
bit
good.
of nervousness.
Yeah, we're going to need that.
And I'd just like to tell you a story about that, actually.
Please do.
Do you mind if I tell you a story?
I would love to hear a story.
Ryan, is it alright if I tell you a story? Do we have time?
One
We
story.
have time?
One story, and then we're out, okay?
So once I was drinking ayahuasca, and I was sitting next to an ex-Australian Olympian.
Really?
Really, right? So I was at a weekend retreat, and we were drinking ayahuasca, we were drinking San Pedro. It was a whole sort of weekend immersion thing. And he was sitting next to me, and we were waiting for the ceremony to start, right? And he was like, "How you feeling?" And then I just told him, I was like, "I'm so fucking nervous." And then he thought I meant because of the ayahuasca, right? He was,
Right.
I was like, "I'm so fucking nervous." And he was like, he was like, "Oh, it'll be all right, you know?" And I was like, "Oh, no, I love this shit, you know? I love psychedelics, you know, no problem with that." But earlier that day, I got confirmation of my first booking at Rainbow Serpent Festival in front of 1,000 people.
Stop.
Right? So
Okay.
my first stage performance was in front of, it was on the market stage. It was the Galactic Ambassador. It was 1,000 people. So I went from
Wow.
0 to 100, and I had just gotten confirmation that I was going to be doing that. So I was shitting myself, right?
That's weird going into a ceremony and then you got this Olympian next to you.
I know. And he leans into me, and it's funny because we were 3 months out. We were 3 months away from me having to do this.
Okay.
And I was fucking shitting myself already. So I was like, this next 3 months is going to be hell.
Yeah.
And so he leans in and he says, well, after the ceremony, we were chatting about it. And he's like, "Don't be nervous. Be excited."
Oh.
And then I was like, okay. And then he went on to explain that one of the things they learned, he was a water polo Olympian for Australia. So he represented Australia at some Olympics, I can't remember. And so he had all these mind hacks, right?
Nice.
And so he went on to tell me that when our physiology feels nervousness and it feels excitedness, it's a very similar chemical reaction that's happening in the brain. I'm not a scientist, I won't be able to tell you everything about it, but like there's something about the neurons that fire, the pathways that get engaged or whatever it is, the chemicals get released, very similar to when you're really nervous and when you're really excited, and you have the opportunity to frame it in a certain way. So so he taught me that whenever I'm feeling nervous about doing something, to just consciously change it into like, now I'm really excited. And when you think about it, when you're nervous, it sort of has a negative connotation, like you're expecting it to not go the way that you want to.
Yes.
But when you're excited, it's got this positive connotation where you're like, I can't wait for this to happen, you know?
Yes.
So
you like engage rather than pull away.
So totally. And so there's this thing where I do it all the time now, whenever I'm nervous about whatever it is that I'm about to do, where I just take a moment to feel that what's going on in my body and just flipping it to serve me in the way that I want it to. You know?
It's so interesting because I've actually been having this conversation with quite a few people about when we can label and identify different feelings, we can work with them. And Brene Brown has actually gathered a lot of data on this, right? So when she sits down to interview people, the 3 primary emotions are sad, mad, and happy. That's it. A lot of people only have 3. She's found over 80 different emotional states that we can identify and understand. So you're right, it's like, what's actually in that nervousness? What else is in there? Is there like fear and joy and excitement and anticipation? And when we like feel into all of these words and we engage with them, we can work better to move through them. It's like we're complex emotional beings.
Yeah.
And we limit ourselves to like putting it all under an umbrella.
Nice.
So some people stash so many emotions that they don't know how to comprehend, or they're too busy or whatever, and they put them in this box that's just like nervous.
Yeah.
But when you open the box, there's a whole lot in there.
I know.
And you're allowed to feel everything sort of like all at once. And it's been a really beautiful process to like have that conversation with people, because we're so programmed to be like, how you going? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Are you really good? Because good's not a very descriptive word.
Yeah, totally.
I'm like usually feeling 5 things at once. And right now I'm feeling like 10 or 15.
Right.
And it's good to know that I can hold all of them and all of them have something for me. But you're right. Nervousness is like, I'm not sure what's going to happen. It's all unknown. And it's a little bit too... my nervous system's too engaged, but excited is like, this might go really well.
I know.
This is going to be great.
It's very positive, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We like being excited about things, you know?
Yeah,
So,
totally. We'll talk about being excited about things.
thank you for having me here.
You're
First
welcome.
of all, thank you for having me here. It's very
You're
nice to be here.
welcome.
Thank you for having me in your studio, Ryan. It's a fantastic place.
You're so welcome, buddy.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You guys are
We're gonna
taking
have a
really
great
good care of
chat.
me.
Yeah. Let's start with, for anyone out there that listens to this that doesn't know who you are and doesn't know your art, let's start with maybe just a story, your story that got you to full-time artist, Light Wizard. What was the journey? Obviously, we all start somewhere,
Yeah.
and now you're at this place.
Fantastic,
So tell us another story.
Fantastic. Let's tell another story. Let's start. I think I'm going to start in high school.
Okay, let's do
Right,
that.
we're gonna have get comfy. Get comfy. we're gonna have an elongated story here. So, in high school, I grew up in Mexico City, and I didn't really like school. You know what I mean?
Okay.
English class, Spanish class, math, it didn't really do it for me. You know, I was a pretty solid C student. And then I started engaging with the arts. You know, I started taking art classes, and I was like, oh, this is better than that shit. You know what I mean?
Great.
And it was about in year 9 or 10 where I discovered the photography studio, the dark room, as we used to have them back in the day. You know.
Dark room.
So this is going back to the year 1998 or something like that, sort of turn of the century, and I started taking photo classes, and what I really enjoyed was there was this secret room inside of the school that you wouldn't know about unless you were in a photography class, you know?
Right.
So I don't know if you or anyone at home has ever been inside of a dark room, but one of the things that you need to do, it's like opening up a closet, and you get inside with you close a door and then you open another door because you can't let the light go in, right?
Right.
So there's this passageway, this like portal into this other space, right?
Okay.
And I really enjoyed that. It really tickled my fancy in just the right way, you know? I mean, at this time I was starting to ask myself some pretty big questions about myself and life, and, you know, starting to walk the labyrinth of introspection and going on some inner journeys, you know, within myself. So there was something about going into this inner space that was different to the rest of the world, that really sort of aligned with where I was at the moment, you know?
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and it was my own little space where other people weren't bothering me. I was kind of left to my own devices, and it was very different to anywhere I'd ever been before, you know? So back in high school, good question, because I actually brought with me today the first picture that I ever took in my life.
Did we crack the question?
You cracked the
Yes!
You cracked the question. So I've got a visual aid. Do we have visuals?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm about to show you something that no one has ever seen, except for maybe my parents or my friends when I was a kid, which was the first picture that I ever took was on a pinhole camera.
What does that mean?
So a pinhole camera, do you know what that is, Ryan? It's basically the basics of photography. It's how people teach year 1 students sort of how a camera works, right?
Right.
So imagine this, right? Imagine this is something that's airtight, and then you put a hole in it. There's the hole in it, right? Just imagine. You cover it with tape, and you put some paper in the back here that's light sensitive, and then you open up the hole for 10 seconds, close it, take the paper out, put it in chemicals, and then the image comes through.
Right.
So it's basically like a camera obscura. It's like the basic principles of how photography works, which is light coming through a lens and being projected onto something that can record the information, right?
Right.
So the way that we did it was with a coffee canister, right? A light tight thing. You put a hole in it, you put a piece of tape on it, you put this paper in the back, you find out what your exposure is, and mine was 20 seconds, right? And I used to carry with me a little toy from Toy Story in my pocket.
Right. Of course you did.
You know the alien with the three eyes? So I used to carry one around, right?
Of course you did.
So I was out and I had to take a picture of something, so I put him on the sidewalk, and I opened up the camera, and I knew it was a 20-second exposure. I closed it after 10 seconds because you got to play with the rules, right? Moved the character and opened it up again, and he turns into this ghostly figure.
Whoa.
And after I saw this image come up in the darkroom, I remember the moment because my first thought was that I had picked up reality in a way that was different to what the world told me was real.
Interesting.
Right? So as soon as I saw it come up, I was like, hold on, there's more to reality than what they're telling me in fucking English class, and I'm going to make it my life pursuit to figure this shit out.
So that was a moment.
That was a moment.
That was like a Steve-defining moment. Let's have a look.
So,
I'm so glad you brought this.
So this could be considered my prized possession, right?
Okay.
It has been with me for 20 years, and it was, if you saw where I found it, you'd be like, fuck, I don't know if that's your prized possession, bro, you know? But I threw it in here today, and I want to share it with you guys. Where's that, over here?
So, yeah, let's go, over there.
There. Whoa, it is the guy.
So
the Toy Story guy. That's a really cool shot.
So the thing about it is that I had no idea that it would come up as a negative, right?
Right.
So there was something really interesting for me to be able to pick up reality in this completely different way. And, you know, like right back there, that was the school, that was the office. You know, I knew that scene, but I've never seen it quite in this light, right?
Yeah.
So this tingled my curiosity and my wonder in a way. I didn't really realize this when it happened, you know, but in retrospect, you kind of figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
And when I saw this, I was like, there's more than meets the eye than what I'm being told, and I'm going to figure out how far this thing can go.
Because art like this is like really available now. This is quite popular to do digitally, like to create sort of illusions and things, and you're doing it old school way, like
100%, yeah, 100%.
back in high school.
It's crazy. My whole body is tingling because I'm looking at that image, and I'm recognizing that is the image that sparked every creation that you've created and will create.
Yeah. 100%.
So could we say it was a synergy moment?
100%. You know?
That's definitely
amazing.
That's really
just
cool.
So this, because there's nothing else, like we live in a world now where there's so many copies of everything. You know what I mean? Like you print everything, you fucking, you know, I lost it, I'll print it out again, whatever. But this was made in, I mean, I could try and reproduce it, but this is one piece of paper that I've been carrying around since I was 16 years old, you know?
Definitely keep it.
So yeah, I should probably take care of it.
That's it. It's all about the details.
I'm going to take better care of it the next 20 years than perhaps the last 20 years, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So from that moment, what was the journey?
So from that moment, damn, we're still in high school.
We've got plenty of time.
So from that moment, I became pretty interested in just showing, creating artwork that that I didn't want to do landscapes. I didn't want to do things that other people could find and take pictures of. I became much more interested in photographing that which was unseen. You know, I became much more interested in finding out what I could possibly get away with, you know, what I could possibly discover. So it sort of, it led me on this journey of like just wonder and curiosity, actually. And then I started to notice really quickly that I would do this thing. I would say these words to people. I would say, "Can I show you a picture?" Right? And then they would look at me and go like, "Yes." And then I would show them a picture, and they would always say, "That's not a picture." You know?
Really?
You know, so it became this thing, it became abundantly clear that we have this perception of what's available, right? We have this perception of what a picture is. We have a perception of you know, we walk down the street and we're like, you know, that's a dog, that's a cat, that's a telephone pole, and there's not many surprises, you know what I mean? So one thing that I end up doing, not really consciously, but I end up just giving people this moment of perplexed puzzlement, very, very positive sort of curiosity, this moment of awe, you know, this moment of like unexpected. It's always very unexpected and very like, huh? But it's never scary or it's never like threatening, you know?
It is surprising,
it's
right?
surprising.
So they think, so if you would have shown that photo that you started off with in high school to people years ago, they probably would have said that's not real. Or like, that's not what I think it is. And maybe your art is the same. It's like your brain organizes it in a certain way, but when you actually explain it, you go, whoa, okay, that's totally different. And you do get this moment where it's like you realize your assumptions and how we just expect like these objects to be here in a certain way and that they're made of a certain thing and we don't question it. But when you can like
100%.
spark that curiosity and get people to question it and go a bit further into their reality, I think that's a really cool quality. And if you're doing that through your art, then curiosity is really important at the moment. Awe is really important too, because if we get too comfortable and everything gets too safe and everything's too organized, we lose those like sparking emotions that really excite the neurons and get us engaged with the moment.
100%.
So why don't we, for anyone that hasn't seen Steve's art before, why don't we pull some images up and you can, Steve, if you wouldn't mind, just explain your process and what we get to when there's a finished product and then all the things that you've done with them too. So what's this image about?
Just a little side note, I've had toys in my pocket ever since. Never leave home without a solid piece of plastic in your pocket. So right now you're looking at a interdimensional love weapon that blasts nothing but positivity and good vibes out to everyone that receives it. And this was actually a commission piece for Hugo the Poet. Check him out. He's a fantastic creator. So basically, what I do is I am in the realm of upcycling, recycling, creative reuse, using things, and with the power of sort of alchemy, raising them from what it is that we perceive them to be. Raising their value into something else, you know? So one of the underlying themes of my work is reusing trash, reusing garbage, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's this really beautiful way that you can get your audience to think about perceived value, you know? Humans, if you get them on the wrong day and you take their stuff, you're going to jail, right?
True, yeah.
But if you wait for the right day and they move it 20 meters out onto their lawn and they have then decided that it is of no use to them and you go and rummage through it, they think that you're trash, right? And you take it and you take their trash and you elevate it to the point where they don't even recognize it anymore and you deliver it back to them to the point where they want to buy it from you.
Interesting. Okay.
So it's a very cheeky
you're
process.
taking their
It's
trash.
a bit of a swindle, isn't it?
It's
It's a bit
brilliant.
of a gotcha.
It's very cheeky. It's very cheeky. It's all of my clever buttons put into one. You know.
So obviously, like on that table, we can see with that image is all sorts of what we would call "quote unquote" junk.
Yeah.
The stuff that we throw out. You might send it to the tip. You might send it to hard rubbish.
Yeah.
You might just chuck it in the bin, and you think that its life has ended. And you're actually collecting those parts. There's a color coding situation going on,
You kind
and
of
you've got a
look
story.
you kind of look like a human bowerbird.
Yeah. I really like that.
The bowerbird thing.
So
Continue.
somebody called me that the other day. I really like that. You know, like a cousin of the bowerbird or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the bowerbird's cousin who doesn't discriminate against colors. You know? Or I'm a colorblind bowerbird.
You're the rainbow bowerbird.
Yeah, all the bowerbirds are like, dude, just blue. You know? It is blue. They're all blue.
Awesome.
That's hilarious.
Can we show a different photo and sort of like pick up the theme? So that one you were making like an actual thing, and that was a commission piece. This one that we'll put up is like you still fiddling with something before you take the photographs. Is that right?
So yeah, like before I take a photograph is this painstaking process of trying, working, reworking, failing, you know, throwing it out the window, swearing I'll never touch it again, you know, bringing it back in a couple weeks later, fiddling with it, moving stuff around, and eventually sort of playing with it long enough that it emerges, you know, something starts to emerge from it, you know.
So you're just arranging pieces with the intention to take a close-up photograph to create the illusion that it's not a photograph?
Well,
or it's just that it's so aesthetically pleasing to the eye that it could be anything?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I like to take reality and take such a like fine-tuned picture of everyday objects that all of a sudden it opens up a portal into another dimension, you know?
Yeah. I love that.
So there's something about showing people normal things, because if you break it down, it's like, oh yeah, it's just this. Oh yeah, it's just this. But through the power of design, through the power of color, through the power of photography, illusion, lighting, perspective, all of a sudden that thing that's actually quite normal becomes something that's very out of this world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So we would put this in the visionary art category, I guess, but it is photography, but it looks like something else. But you didn't stop there. It was like the reach of this art could keep on going. So Ryan, do we have like a finished shot of one of Steve's art pieces? I think there's, I forget what you called this one, Steve. So that one there is like what you might see with the end product, right?
Correct.
And there's nothing, when I first look at that, there is nothing in my mind that says that that's stuff.
Yeah.
Things or junk or anything. My mind is going, how many shapes, how much geometry, how much digital process is involved there?
Yeah. 100%.
And like, where did it come from almost? Like it's a portal of some kind in my mind. And then I think when you realize that you've strategically placed things and lit them up in a certain way and you've color-coded things and put it all together and taken this really crisp photo of it, your mind goes, wait, what? And even like the dimensions of like, how big is this stuff is one of the questions I always ask myself. Like, is this little stuff or is it big stuff?
Yeah.
My consciousness and my reality gets a little bit warped, and I love that feeling. So that must be the feeling that a lot of people get looking at your art, but maybe it takes a little bit of education in the beginning. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the beginning, I never told anyone how I did it. I always assumed that they knew, or it wasn't important, or I was just more focused on the final image, you know? And I'm not a painter. People think I'm really good at Photoshop. I'm very basic at Photoshop. You know, I'm not a digital wizard by any stretch of the imagination. And this is just the way that I managed to get there. You know what I mean? It was my way of like going, I'll do it my way. I'll figure out how to get there. And when people understand how it was made, it opens up this whole new dialogue. You know, there's lots of sort of underlying themes. But as soon as people understand the simplicity yet complexity of what it is, there's this moment of just like, this awe and this open and this expansion. And one of the things that that's part of my work that I didn't even know was there is just understanding that we have limits, and these limits are ones that we place, you know? We place them here, and we're like, this is as far as this goes, you know? And then a lot of times when people understand the process, those sort of go away a little bit, and there's that second of like, I thought we were firmly rooted in here, but no, we're somewhere else. So it begs the question, what else is going on?
Yeah. Totally,
you know?
Totally.
Well, like what
I
else?
love that.
What else have we would assign truth to that perhaps is only a belief system, you know, that has perhaps been put upon us by these cultural operating systems, you know, governments, politicians, education system, family unit, you know, all these information that we get embedded with as a child, and we grow up going like, this is real. But then all of a sudden it's like, all right, have a look at this. I'm like, wow, I didn't fucking think about that.
Yeah.
And so if there's even one little millimeter that you can push there, then you have to assume that you can keep going. Right?
Absolutely, and it's a really cool conversation because, I would group all of those stories and limiting beliefs under the word conditioning, right? And we are conditioned to believe and think that we have to stay within this box that isn't real, right? The box is the illusion. And art is a really beautiful way for us to extend and realize where those barriers are and where that resistance is. It's like, you didn't just stick to photography. You didn't just try and do a better portrait than anyone else. You were like, let's just blow this open completely. And I think it's a really cool conversation for any artist out there. It's like, we have to create beyond our own comfort and beyond the comfort of other people. And you must have got to that point when you were creating this unique process that it wasn't about whether people understood how you did it or what you were trying to achieve. It's just that they looked at it and their brain organized it, but there was this other layer. So you must have been so invested in the process and your own awe to create something so outside the box. And I think that's really important because there's a lot of artists out there that keep it small. We're like, but this sells well. Like, who cares about what sells? Let's go for curiosity and awe. Let's surprise ourselves and then see what we can create.
Yeah.
And you got to keep on pushing those boundaries away, because I hear the narratives as well. It's like, but nobody's ever done that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. And then I say, well, nobody's ever done that.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Maybe I could do that. Maybe we could do that. Like, can we do that? And your art sort of symbolizes that, and I think it's really important. But you didn't stop there at just the art. You've moved on to managing art galleries, putting your art up at festivals. You've done some speaking, some performances. And now you've even put your art onto clothing, so we could call that wearable art.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a huge range and a lot of diversity that you've managed to explore. And I want to talk about, as you extend into those different areas, is that beyond your comfort zone? Like, before you go, I'm going to put my art onto clothing so people can actually wear it, is that like, that's a bit scary. I thought I was just going to be doing this photo thing. And how has it evolved and changed for you?
Yeah, totally. I just want to say this one quote that I heard the other day that I know that you're going to like. And I was just
Please.
when I heard this, I was like, fucking write this down. Write this down. And I was like, no, if it's that good, then you'll be able to remember it. You know what I mean? And it was something, to paraphrase, was step on your limits and turn them into a staircase.
Oh, that is juicy. Brian loves it.
Step on your limits until they form a staircase, just
so
one
you're
by
always
one,
just
one by one,
chipping away at resistance.
by one, by one, and in truth, my whole extravaganza with art and everything, it's all about me just battling myself and me showing up and me personally developing myself me dealing with my fears. Oh, it's this other good one I heard. It's something about like stare down your fears and become their master. Or something like that.
That is juicy.
It's like look at your fear in the eye until you become its master. You know, like something like that. But to go back to what you were mentioning before, I started with still life photography, and then I realized that I'm using tactile objects. So I started becoming interested in sculpture, which made me interested in large scale installation. Which then made me, well, let's make an outfit out of it, you know?
Yeah.
I made an outfit out of it. And the funny thing is that I am not a performer, per se. I'm what in Australia you call a dag.
A dag?
You know what a dag is?
I've not heard that word.
Do you know what a dag is, Ron? I thought this is Australian.
There's a couple of different meanings in Australia.
Okay.
One is like a goofy kind of person.
Okay.
Right.
And the other is a piece of shit that hangs on the back of a sheep's ass.
Yeah, I think I've heard of both of those.
So it's one of those two.
Maybe
It's one of those two.
I was wrong the whole time. That motherfucker was calling me a dag this whole time. So I've all, you know, I don't mind putting it on. You know, I don't mind being seen for a certain amount of time and just putting on a character, making everyone laugh. You know, like making fun of myself for the enjoyment of everyone else. You know.
Yeah.
So I made this ridiculous outfit out of rubbish, and I got booked to do a performance in front of 1,000 people. You know, it was like first one. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And so it's funny when people call me a performer, because like I'm really not. And when I'm sitting talking to people that are actually trained actors and performers, I have no idea what you know.
Right. Okay.
All I am is willing to let it all hang out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm willing to be seen. I'm willing for my personality to come through. I'm willing to not take myself so seriously for a bit and just like blah, you know?
Yeah.
But it's also like, if I wasn't going to do it, who else is going to do it, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And it means like your reach of your art is in different audiences. Like if we just do one thing one way, we only reach one kind of person.
yeah.
And we only reach one part within ourselves too.
Yeah.
It's like when you branch out and you go beyond your comfort zone, you end up doing things that you never thought were possible.
Yeah.
But then you reach people in different ways.
Yeah. 100%.
So yeah, interesting that you don't use the word performer. Yeah.
I mean, one thing that I've found is that during sort of that period where I was doing all these different things, it was a very explorative time where I was sort of testing the waters, not being afraid to fail, just trying things out, you know, learning, growing, and sort of seeing what sticks. And now I think like I want to be doing less, a whole bunch of things. I don't see myself as being, this is the start of my performance career. You know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah.
I think, you know, as I'm a conscious creator of my reality, like I want to choose more what it is that I want, you know, and I'm being led to let go of like all the gallery management and all of the installations and these sorts of things, and just really like laser focusing on the artwork and perhaps the clothing as well, because the clothing and the artwork work really well together. Because when you do too many things, sometimes, you know,
you can dilute.
Like
your
I'm
creativity.
exhausted as well.
Yeah, like
I'm fucking exhausted.
So I wanted to ask you a question. Would you call yourself an intuitive person?
I would sit for a moment and be like, yes. What's the opposite of intuitive? I must be intuitive. Yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah. And how does that? Is there a part of your intuition that links into your art?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How does that show up?
Yeah. Well, because my process is all about following this sort of guiding light, right? My whole life has been about me trading in the security of a secure career path, all of this, you know, all of the chatter from the outside world, and go like, no. Like my teacher's like, what are you gonna do, Steve? I'm like, I'm gonna play with fucking rubbish. I'm gonna play with rubbish until I'm 40. It's gonna be a new fucking career. Just wait and see, you know? And like along my journey, there wasn't a lot of people going like, that's a good idea. Yeah,
no one understands.
You go to the bank and you're like, all right, I got this business plan, right?
I'm gonna play with rubbish.
I'm gonna play with your rubbish until you pay me for it. You know? What were we talking about?
We were talking about intuition, and I love
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
there's like a theme coming through that really to embrace your art fully, full-time artists, and to go towards mastery, we do need some sense of intuition. We need courage. It's not meant to make sense, and there's a hell of a lot of people that will never understand it.
Yeah.
And if you go on that path looking for approval,
Yeah.
you might be let down a little bit. It's like a self-governed part, and I love what you
100%.
said, a guiding light. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I don't know that this is going to work out. It's just a feeling
Yeah.
or a sense, and I'm going for it.
Yeah. 100%. So like at
Beautiful.
a young age, I was always in my photo classes as this weird guy, doing all these abstract images. But I just knew, like, there's something about this cultivating your inner knowingness, right? And just knowing that if you follow this, it will work out. And there's no possible way that I could have foreseen all of the things that I've done. Now, there's no way I could have figured that out. But it was
Totally.
just step by step, and I just had to keep on going. And when I was in my 20s, I had a lot of struggles. We could talk about that later. I had lots of struggles in my 20s. And it sort of got me to the point where I wasn't happy. I was doing all these jobs I hated. I was, living paycheck to paycheck, alcoholic, drug addict, doing all this sort of stuff. And it sort of hit my proverbial rock bottom or whatever, and had to make a choice about what I actually wanted in life, And I knew that even though during my 20s I wasn't making art, I sort of put that away. I sort of knew that that in order for me to die a happy man, that I would have had to have tried,
Yes.
I would have had to have tried, because as I decipher for myself, and you're the only person that can decipher what success and happiness means to you, right? So as you start to figure out what that means for you, part of it for me was that I would have put as much gusto as I could have into my art, into my creativity, into my creation. So it was when I was about 30, 28, 30, that I decided that I was going to give it a go, right? I was just going to give it a solid go. And eventually, getting back to this intuition thing, is that I have not had any job security for 25 years, right?
Nice.
I have had a fantastic life, right?
Beautiful.
And I've always tapped into my moral compass and my inner guide to help me understand what it is that I need to do, whether or not it makes sense to even myself or the outside world or whatever, And the funny thing that happens is that after a while, you do it for long enough, and you're always okay.
Yes.
That it turns into like a superpower, because you just know that it gets easier to know what to do and what not to do, and just to feel solid in your actions and your...
Absolutely. So it's almost like you've got to practice taking those risks and prioritizing your art and having the courage to do it despite no one understanding it. The more you do it, the more that process becomes less scary, the more that you go towards it. And you're actually anchored into this feeling of, well, I'd prefer to be failing at this, at something that I love, and developing myself, than doing anybody else's version of what life might be. And I really like that. And you seem to have a really strong self-development journey running alongside your art, and that's important. So I'm interested in, like, the art galleries that you have managed. You're obviously managing a lot of different artists at different stages in their life and different stages in their emerging as artists. Is there like common trends that you see in those artists, or common barriers that we could speak to now about where we actually reach when we're trying to take this path of an artistic life? Have you noticed some patterns?
Yeah, 100%. For example, one thing that I notice, especially in younger artists, artists in their 20s, I'm 40 now, so when I'm dealing with artists that are between 20 and 25, especially nowadays, they have this, they're not very patient.
Oh.
Because we sort of live.
That's the word again.
Well, we sort of live in this world of like fucking social media, if, you know,
instant gratification.
a lot of them expect they don't understand why they're not rich and famous yet, but they're like actual words are like, I've been doing this for a solid 2 years now. I would have thought that I'd have 100,000 followers and people would be offering me things from all over the world, you know. And then, and one of the things that I've found is a very important thing for me to cultivate is just like a maniacal sense of patience, you know.
Yes.
And playing the long game, you know, like when you decide that you're going to be an artist, it's different to like deciding that you're going to get into real estate, because it's sort of like it's a lifestyle, it's a journey, it's something that doesn't stop, you know.
Sure.
It's like it's a life commitment, you know what I mean?
It's not just a career.
Yeah,
it's
more than that, you know. And of course people get to decide whatever it is that they want to do, however it is they want to be an artist, you know, 100%. But one of the most important things that I've found is to don't worry about what you think should be happening now. Just worry about getting good.
Yes.
Because the gooder you get, the gooder it gets.
Yeah, okay.
That's so poignant. I was speaking to someone, it's like, just work on A.
Yeah.
Because B, C, D, if you don't have A done, work on A.
100%.
Work on your
It's like,
craft.
work on A. Because A leads into B and C and D.
Yeah.
B and C and D don't happen without A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, you still have to get yourself there, and that takes like patience, discipline, practice, all of these things that we think, and it must be like heavy conditioning from modern society, instant gratification, all these things. We just think that there might be a shortcut somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've tried the shortcuts, they don't work.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, if I just push myself to get to that level before it's my time, I might have hacked the system somehow. What about the journey to just get to each timestamp as it beautifully falls in?
Yeah.
And then it takes away from this like stress to become something or be somewhere in particular. Because as soon as we put a destination on it, we attach to that outcome. And what if there's something better coming our way, but all we can see is I've got to have 100,000 followers or whatever it is? What if you got 200 coming, but it's going to come in a completely different timestamp, but you're too focused on controlling the experience?
Yeah.
And then we sort of have to like step back and go, what's happening here? What are we doing? And I think obviously it comes with experience and maturity and all those things, but when you are a young artist, it's hard to really understand that. It's like, if I want to do this forever, how sustainable can I make it? And how can I fall in love with the process? And am I doing something that I will love for a very long time? Sometimes it's like, well, no.
Yeah.
I want to actually do something less or better or my own way, or I want to have heaps of time in between. That's like that sustainability journey. And I think if artists are just looking for the archetype without the process, like if you're a painter and you don't want to be painting every single day, then we've got to reevaluate what's going on here. If you're a musician that doesn't like to practice, maybe there's something sort of not really in alignment there. And it would be cool for you because you'd see that show up over and over again, and you'd see like the age and the timestamps and the different art and how they're emerging, and how you can, I'm sure you would be really great for advice and support for these artists, getting them at least into these festival galleries.
Yeah, sometimes advice they don't want to hear.
For sure.
Can I just share one more thing, because it's coming up right now, because
Yes,
I'm working on a gallery, is that one really important sort of trait that I've found, I would even call it, especially with event work, with festivals, is that dependability is one of the most powerful currencies that I have ever come across, right? It might not show up all at once as though, oh, I'm getting paid this amount. But when people know that they can depend on you, that they can give you a task, they can give you a job, right? And that you'll come through with it consistently over and over and over again. Dependability and consistency, like keywords there, you know? If you cultivate that and people actually recognize that within you, that's like a very solid foundation for you to have continuous sort of opportunities and growth for longer than you could possibly imagine, you know?
That's really cool. So I'm like really curious about like what makes us dependable and how do we get there in our own journey, right? Because like you have to link in with the job and you have to have a good sense of self as well. It's like what makes us dependable to other people. It's also similar to like integrity or not even hard working. It's just someone that will be resourceful and responsible enough to take their role seriously. So I really like that. Would you say that there is a tendency for young artists to not have that dependability?
Well, I mean, it's something that artists in general sometimes struggle with, you know, because we're so imaginative, you know, we're so in the flow, you know what I mean? We're so sipping the finest fruits that the world has on offer, you know what I mean? So it's really good to stay balanced, you know, and to stay grounded and to stay true to your word, and be as organized as you can, as structured as you can. And you know, also artists, we're very like self-involved because we're the masters of our universe and we're doing this thing, blah, blah, blah. But then sometimes it gets difficult to play with others and like organize with others and like, oh, we're part of a team now, you know, we're doing a whole thing together, you know, so sometimes it's difficult for artists to show up and work amongst others towards a common goal.
Do you think that comes down to communication?
Comes out of communication, organization, structure, probably some discipline there, maybe a bit of clarity as well, clarity on what it is that you actually want, you know?
Yes. Yeah, so we'd all like to be tucked away in the studio with the door closed creating.
Yeah.
But if we don't have the organization, the communication, the ability to collaborate with others, we're going to limit ourselves, right? Would you say?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how good your art is, if you can't get it out there in a way that's relevant to other people, then it's just going to be you in your studio creating.
Yeah.
And that can be the barrier. I see that barrier in healers all the time. Healers, I see this pattern. Most of us are terrified of self-promotion because we don't know how to express and describe what we do in a way that's meaningful without it looking like an egotistical outlet. But there's a certain part of that needs to happen, right? So as a healer, you need to be confident in your skills and to be able to say, well, these are the results I've gotten with other people. I'm sure I can take you somewhere that will provide at least a fresh perspective or the honesty to say, well, I don't know where I can take you, but I'm interested in trying.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that, it's not just confidence, because people use the word confidence and it's not as simple as that. It's more like trying and failing, practicing, trying different things, communicating to different people, seeing what works, gather the data, finding a way to resonate with people that's not just your way. Because if you stay in this box of, I want to do it this way and this is the way I want to do it, other people go, okay, not interested. And then you run the risk of saying, oh, I'm a failure, I'm not good enough. Or what about if we take a different perspective, like a different angle? And that's sort of what you've done with your art. It's like it's in so many different forms. It's accessible to so many different people all over the world so they can experience it in their own way. Like, can we put some photos of Steve's beautiful clothing up to see what photography looks like in clothing form and how people can access it that way, with the story of you as an artist, with how it was produced through, you know, trash on the street and other people's things that they throw out. So these are the board shorts, right?
So these are the board shorts.
Tell us about the board shorts.
I lovingly called them Wonder Pants when they first came out, because I really like that idea of getting some magic in your shorts, you know?
Love it.
And this was the first article of clothing that I ever made. I had some really good friends that took me to Bali. They're a few years ahead of me, and they just showed me the ropes, and I'm infinitely grateful for their guiding hand.
They say awesome people, aren't they?
And I live in board shorts. You know, I love board shorts. I'm a very sweaty gentleman.
Active.
I pack a lot of heat. I overheat easy. You know, so especially living in Australia, you know, I need to make conscious choices about what I wear, and so I love board shorts. You know, so they were an obvious first choice for me, and And yeah, I just really wanted to find a different avenue for the art to exist on, whilst also, because I'm consciously choosing in my life that making money through my creative endeavors is a value of mine.
Yes.
As soon as I got clear on the fact that I wanted to make my money on the wings of my creations, then you just sort of back engineer it to the point where you need to have high quality products available for people, you know?
Okay, so you made a decision somewhere along the line that said, I actually do want to make money from this, I want to support myself, I want it to work.
Right.
So how do I explore those avenues?
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about before, there's something about becoming clear about what it is that you want. And once you understand what it is that you want and why you want it, then it sort of guides your actions. And that's one thing that I've found that helped me a lot with self-promotion. None of that comes easy to anybody, you know what I mean? But once it becomes part of a much richer tapestry, right, of what you're doing, you know, like for me, it always goes to my end game. It's like, I'm about to die, I look up, and how do I feel, you know? I use death as a real big motivator. I use death to help me answer lots of questions.
Yeah.
I use death to back engineer from when I'm going to die as an old man in a bed, hopefully, you know. I understand what I want my relationships to be like, what kind of home I want to be living in, you know, how I want my career to have gone, what I want my health to look like, you know, all these sorts of things. And it helps me become clear on what success in this lifetime means to me. And then self-promotion, you go down the line, it's just one of those things that I'm going to do.
It's
you know
just
what I mean?
part of the engineering, right?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting because I ask my clients that a lot. We play this scenario like you're an 80-year-old man or woman, you've come to the end of your life and we're interviewing you. How does it feel to be a successful what?
Right.
Like, how did this part go in your life? And people link into like what they would be proud of if they spent their time doing for decades and decades and decades, to the point where they're being interviewed and they're so linked into that they did that part well and that part well, that they can understand if they're not doing those things in their life, right? So a friend of mine would say, you got to sort out the why, and then the how will take care of itself. It's like, if I know I'm getting there, like whenever I die, I know that these things are going to be in place. How do I get myself there? What are the habits? What are the rituals? What are the processes? And yeah, self-promotion and marketing and all these things that are so difficult just become part of where I'm going. So we're not tripped up on it all the time. It's like, well, this is the job.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm getting to this place where I'm going to be a really satisfied old person, then this is the job.
Yeah.
And let's see if it works. If it works, keep on doing it. If it doesn't,
Yeah.
maybe we can let it go.
And you could also do it in a heartfelt sort of, conscious way. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think there's another mind frame there. You know, it's sort of how you frame it. But yeah, I'm just reminded right now of a famous quote from Les Brown. Do you know Les Brown?
Quotes. Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah, Les Brown's really good.
Yeah.
And he's got this thing where he says, right before you die, you're going to be surrounded by the ghosts of the dreams that were given to you to bring to life.
Oof.
And they're going to be standing there with stern, angry eyes looking down upon you, asking you why you did not bring them to life.
Oh my God.
That turned quickly.
That is a motivator.
You know what I mean?
My gosh.
Another one. This isn't Les Brown. This is someone else, but it just popped in. It's like, when you die, you're going to come face to face with the person that you could have been, and the idea is to be able to be as close to that person that you can reach your hand out and shake his hand, and you both nod accordingly to each other. You know?
Yes.
Yeah, so for me, this whole life thing is all about this. It's an opportunity, you know. It's this opportunity, and I would like to make the most of it. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that drives lots of different interests into your life in different ways. Lots of interesting people, opportunities. So I guess that whole journey, if we could talk to people that are a different leg of their journey, or they want a more creative life, or they want to use more of their time towards their art, would we remind them that it's not meant to be comfortable all the time? What else would you say to a young emerging artist?
Yeah. So I'm going to say two things. I'm going to talk about discipline, and I'm going to talk about clarity. We've already started to touch on clarity, but I want to say a couple more things.
Let's do
it. Tony Robbins has these 4 steps, right, that I absolutely love.
Okay.
And I'm going to paraphrase them right now.
Yeah.
So the first one is understand what you want. Understand what it is that you want, you know, like be specific, know what you want. And that's the problem, is that a lot of people, they don't know what they want, you know, they don't know specifically what it is that they're after.
Yeah, you're right.
And know why you want it, because it's going to be tough, you know, it's going to be tough, and you're going to have to fall back on remembering why it is that you started that journey to begin with. And then another one is the next step is to go after it as though your life depends on it, because it does, right? So it sort of you take massive action towards that which you've already decided that you want for this reason. I want this for this reason, and then I take actions towards it. And then the hard one that trips me up all the time is you need to stop all the time and review whether it's working or not. And if it is not working, then you need to stop and you need to change it, you know?
Absolutely. Because you can be going down a path thinking that it's all working out and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and then suddenly you go, wait, I don't think it's working.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And that can be like a really confronting part. Because you're like, but I want it to work, but maybe it's shifted. Then you have to go back and reevaluate. Hang on, I'm doing this because I wanted this.
Yeah.
I'm not getting there this way.
Yeah.
I might have to abandon the plan. I might have to change the pathway. I might have to change who I am. How scary. But if we can do that, reevaluate, debrief, have the conversations with ourselves, and then realign, I think that is a really important capacity to have for anyone, that version of our outcome means. But Tony, awesome. 4 steps. Yeah, I'll remember that.
Another, what did I say? Discipline. Yeah. Discipline is something that I needed to bring into my life because I was a bit off the rails, and I was in a dark place, you know, and I needed to change my world around. And discipline is a word that sometimes gets a negative connotation because you think about like you know, your teacher disciplining you, or your parents, or like you know, pain or whatever it is. But when you choose to be disciplined for yourself and make it a daily action, it is what will help you get to freedom.
Definitely.
It's what will help you get all of that you're asking for. Discipline is a very powerful tool, you know?
So how do you personally get to discipline? Like, do you have rituals in place? Do you know that the rituals that you just do work, habits? Like, what's your relationship with discipline?
So, well, how about I'll take you through my morning routine?
Great! I would love that. I love morning routines.
I'll take you through my morning routine. First thing is have a morning routine. So let's just say that your goal for the day is to have a great day and fucking make heaps of money, make great connections, make the most out of your day, this sort of thing, right? So the way that I've found is that I'm an early riser. Me and my partner, we wake up 5:30, 6 in the morning. We try to get up pre-sunrise, and that's not something that ever becomes natural, right? I remember when I was a little kid and I was like, I can't wait to be old, so I'll just fucking sleep all day, you know?
It's not gonna happen,
no one will tell me when to get out of bed. But now I love waking up before the sun rises. And what happens is, as soon as I hear that alarm clock, every part of my body goes like, don't worry about it, Steve. It's okay. Just stay in bed. It's nice and comfy. Don't worry about it. You know, my mind and my body is just like, every single day, right? Is like, don't do it, buddy. Don't do it.
Today's not the day.
So what I do is I go, no, get up, get out of bed, right? So that when you go from being unconscious to conscious, the first hurdle that you encounter is right there, and you train your subconscious and conscious mind that I'm the sergeant. My body does what I tell it to do. You obviously can't control everything that happens in life, but we make lots of choices.
We can control if we get out of bed or not,
You know,
right?
we make a ridiculous amount of choices every single day.
Yes.
So if the first choice that you need to make is a winner, right, that sets you up to win. Sets you up to start to
So
win.
that is the discipline, like that's the discipline moment for you. It's like, I could stay in bed and I know all the reasons why I could. I'm getting up anyway, and that establishes that winning moment.
That establishes how we are now entering the day having already won a battle.
I
Right?
like that. Yep.
So the second thing that I do is I make my bed. I make my bed.
Great. Yep.
I never want to make my bed, but I make my bed. And the reason why I make my bed is because there's something about doing a bunch of small wins, putting a bunch of small wins together that equal a big win, you know? Like the way that I've found my failures, they normally don't happen overnight. They're usually a whole bunch of bad decisions put together.
Yep.
My successes, they're not just something that happened. They're usually a whole bunch of different things that are put together, you know?
Yep.
So the more I can stack on these little wins throughout the day, and the more that I can understand this is actually going to be good for me in the long run and do it anyway, the better I'm going to be. You know?
And it also like trains your neurochemistry around those small moments that ignite, I've done it, I've won, that's a mini win for me. And that accumulates towards, I believe, like a feeling of better confidence or self-worth or dependability within ourselves.
Yeah.
It's like, I know if I can get up, make my bed, have a nutritious breakfast, get some sunlight in my eyes and do some movement, that I've actually coded that day for success, even though I didn't want to.
Yeah.
And that can be the interesting part about discipline, is like, you're not meant to want to get out of bed and go, yes, I'm going to make my bed and work out. You're meant to push beyond the resistance to make it a part of your day that's really important. So I love that. I really relate to that. And it does really work, I've found. It's like, this could be the day that changes my life. I'm going to prepare.
Like, I feel infinitely better if I get up when the sun, it's almost like riding a wave, you know, and the sun comes up and that's your opportunity, like, to drop into the wave.
Yeah.
Or if I wake up at 9 or whatever, I don't wake up at 6 every morning, but like, if I wake up at 9 or whatever, I feel like I'm catching up. I'm always catching up on the day, you know?
And you create this sort of relationship with yourself that is not super solid for me. Like, I'd prefer to depend on myself, and they call it like the reparenting process. It's like, you've got to show up to something, say you're going to do it, and do it. And that can be the smallest thing, like make your bed or get up before the sun gets up. And that's really important because your whole body recognizes that and your cells remember that. And it's like, it anchors in like, I can do this and I can do so much more. So I've been practicing for a long time. Doesn't matter if I'm going to have the best day of my life or the worst day of my life. I'm going to set myself up with exactly the right frequency. And I know how to get there usually. It's a bunch of small actions that add to the whole.
Yeah, exactly. Another daily discipline is...
Don't drink too much.
Yeah. Another daily discipline is working out, you know, moving my physiology.
Yes, let's talk about that.
Like, one thing that I dealt with a lot of depression, paranoia, personal psychosis, alcoholism, drug addiction, lack of self-confidence, you know, you name it, right? And exercise has been the most powerful medicine for all of that, you know?
Oh, I totally agree.
Like the amount of chemicals, the pharmacopoeia of like good feelings that we have available within our brain that we can activate through moving our physiology is it's pretty much the backbone of my my overall sense of goodness and well-being, you know?
Yeah. So how did you, like, when did you start to realize that, and what forms of exercise took you there?
I think it was when I was about 28, 30, and I think it was actually dance that was my first one. Yeah. Because I would recognize that when I was in ecstatic states and when I was letting it all go, letting it all hang out, and actually doing this ridiculous cardio, you know, like that I would feel extremely high, and I feel like I would get out the lead, you know, I'd get out that which was holding me back, was keeping my demons at bay, sort of thing. So I started getting into ecstatic dance, and, you know, 5 rhythms, dancing freedom, these sort of practices, and just incorporating movement into my weekly sort of activity. And running, I love to run. Running is like, I'll run maybe three times a week, and it's pretty much one of my favorites because it's quite meditative, and there's so much of like mind chatter. No, you're done. You got to be done. Oh, this is hard. I don't know. We can do it.
Okay.
You know, and I love to run. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I lift weights. I do sort of HIIT exercises. I do some martial arts. I like to hike. I like to walk. I like to have sex. I like to dance. Yeah. So movement is definitely something that I do every day to make myself feel better, and it's also discipline as well, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm relatively late to the exercise game, if I was really honest. So I've only really just linked into dynamic movement in the last couple of years. And before that, I have addiction in my past as well. And the discipline that I've used with exercise and with meditation, I can safely say now that those experiences that I get through those 2 outlets have been better than any drug I've ever taken, more expansive than any plant medicine I put in my body, and has facilitated so much growth and so much increased capacity for everything, creativity, joy, discipline, all of it, that I can safely say that those avenues are part of my life forever now. Because it's like my body is responding in a way that I never thought was possible. And I remember the feeling of year after year just saying, I know I need to exercise, I know the science, I've got a degree that tells me that movement is really important, and I'm working on other people, and I can see in their bodies when they're not moving enough. The body like speaks to me and it's all these symptoms. But I just couldn't get there. And I didn't know what was the problem. I thought it was a willpower problem. But I was going, I need to exercise. This is the year. This is the year. I'm definitely exercising this year. I'm going to get into it. It just wasn't time. And I found out that I was anemic and I had all these other things going on that were preventing me getting there. I didn't have the capacity. But once I did show up to it, through the discomfort of realizing that my body had not been worked in a dynamic, creative, intuitive way in a long time, was very confronting. I had to look like a fool. I had to feel these really interesting and weird sensations in my body. And I reached many barriers of fear. Like, I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. I don't know if I have capacity for this. I don't know if this is going to break me. I don't know if this is going to hurt. And I just kept on moving past those barriers, and I found all these resources underneath. I was like, oh, there's my energy. There's my clarity. There's my discipline. There's everything I've been looking for. And all I had to do was exercise. But it became this really big process and this spiritual process. Same with meditation. It's awkward at first. It's clunky. It's, am I doing it right? I feel like an idiot. But the more you do it, the more it opens up to you. And then you're like, this is like the best thing. This is the best drug I've ever had. And all I have to do is sit there. Your ego hates it. It's like all I have to do is run in a direction for a certain amount of time and all my problems will be solved. What is this? Isn't it meant to be harder than this? So I really am just figuring out that process now. And I can see in my life that I would never want to be without exercise or meditation. Because I just won't be able to get to the places that I'm looking to go. It's like they fall into place with that routine, and it's really important.
Totally,
And who knows where that routine's going to take us? We just keep on doing it, right? Wonderful.
I just found that, like, you know, once I identified that I valued my mental health, and that I valued physical fitness, and I valued an overall sense of goodness and well-being within my body, that because I understood that I actually valued those things, that that it was easier to prioritize sort of these daily disciplines or these daily practices, exercises that informed that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Most of us, if we had a goal, it would just be to feel good or to feel better every day. That's what I hear a lot. You know, what do you want from your life? I just want to feel better. Okay, so feeling better can actually be a little bit more simple than we think, because feeling better is linked into like our biology, our intuition, all these rituals that we have, all these habits that we have. We can actually like reverse engineer it, like you were saying with your art, and like, what are the processes that take me towards feeling better? What actually makes me feel better, and how can I do more of that and do less of the things that make me feel terrible, and like gather the data, so it's not this big confusion question, like, why don't I feel good every day? Okay, well, let's try a few different things. Let's get creative about feeling better and then see what actually happens. But yeah, I don't think any of us like feeling stuck, but we all get there. And I would probably throw my morning routine at feeling stuck, and if it didn't work, I would double it and then see what happened. And I think I'd eventually get to a frequency that I prefer. So that's really important for any artist or anyone going on that journey, I believe. So one more question, Steve.
Yeah.
You are, at this point in time, a full-time artist. You've got many projects going at once. You're not afraid to create beyond your comfort zone. Is there a place you're heading moving forward that you'd like to explore? Is there a new perspective on your art that you're thinking about taking? What's forward for you?
Well, I'm at this pretty interesting juncture in my life. I'm 40 years old. I have a lovely partner of 8.5 years that I love to bits.
I love her too.
And we just bought our first property out in the bush, you know.
Very exciting.
So it's a really interesting time because I'm finding myself slowing down a little bit and just being a lot more fulfilled in very simple moments of life, you know. I can kind of feel myself maturing a little bit, and I'm learning a lot about what it takes to maintain a 5-acre property out in the bush in Australia, which basically leaves no time for anything else. But I've sort of made a decision to do this, and it's in a sense taken me away a little bit from my art in the last 6 months to a year, which is very normal. But I am looking forward to creating artwork, but also creating my life. Looking at my life more as the masterpiece. You know what I mean? Like my life is the masterpiece, and my home life is a very important part of that. So my partner and I, we're now living off grid, and we're much more interested in growing all of our vegetables and being able to interact with the natural world around us in a much closer way than we did before. We're getting all of our energy from the sun, all of our water from the sky, and moving forward, I know that I'm just finding myself becoming a little bit more bushier of a man, Yep. And I'm actually looking forward to incorporating a lot of natural sort of objects into my art creation process.
Interesting. Because
I've always been using the refuse of society, right? But nature's got some goodies.
Yeah. And you're surrounded.
Nature's got lots of goodies, So
beautiful.
So that's definitely an avenue that I look forward to exploring more. I look forward to understanding more and more what it is that I actually want and choosing more deliberately my path, I'm sort of at a place where I feel myself wanting to take a step back from all of the events and all of the festivals that I've been at for the last sort of decade, 10 years. I am still very interested in clothing. A story about me as a kid was that I hated clothes.
Really?
And I hated making a decision about, like, this is how I show up in the world. I chose to put this on today. You know what I mean? And I would hate it whenever I would have to buy a new pair of something and go to school for the first time, because people would know that I thought that those shoes looked good. And I was so scared, I was really scared growing up about showing up in the world, and I was scared about what other people thought of me, and I was scared about how I looked.
So that training started really early.
So so it's a very exciting sort of healing process for me to be like, wait a minute.
Oh, full circle on the clothing theme.
I'll make my own.
Yeah, nice.
I'll make my own. I'll wear my own, and it's me. You know, it's like I'll try and make something that works for me. You know.
Yeah.
It's like this big healing process that I didn't realize until I did it, and I was like, oh, wait a minute. You know.
Yeah, it's funny how a lot of us have got into clothing design because we just can't find the clothes that we feel comfortable in.
Yeah.
We want clothes that like feel or mirror what we're feeling, and sometimes you got to go out there and make your own to really get that. And we just hope that other people are into it too, and that invokes like a similar sense of, I don't know what the word would be, but for me, when I wear the clothes that I've designed for my body that make me feel a certain way, there's something that falls into place. Like now I don't have to be any other version of myself because nobody's made clothes that I feel good in. I can actually just sink into like, this is me. Like through and through, and that's a really cool process. I mean, designing and making clothing is a cool process anyway. It's part of the creative journey, but I love that that's come full circle from something that you were thinking about in school. Would you say that you have a spiritual relationship to your art? Is that a word that you would use? And what would that relationship be like?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, when I delve into my art, it's sort of the world of spirit. You know, it's more the mysterious aspects of life. You know, it's the magic and it's the mystery. It's the unseen. You know, and it's deeply rooted in my sense of personal fulfillment in this lifetime, and my connection to universe, God. You know, all of creation. So when I create, it's always an interesting moment where I start and I sort of like, I understand that I'm accessing that power of all of creation. You know what I mean? Creation. You know, like let us create. Let us, you know, let us have a session of wonderment and magic, and let it ooze out of us. And you know, we do not know where we are going, but we will know when we arrived.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
And there's something about just jumping into that river of creativity and having conversations with all of creation, you know? Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah. And I imagine that you're going to have lots of conversations with the natural world around you when you start drawing that into new art pieces. I can't wait for that. That's going to be amazing.
Yeah, totally.
Beautiful. All right, what we might do now is we're going to take a small break, and then we're going to close this beautiful episode with the big cosmic joke section.
Great.
I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. We're going to fumble our way through, but basically the big cosmic joke is about, we have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're creating a reality. There's no rules here. So let's just remember to keep calm because nothing is in control.
Okay.
You happy with that?
Sounds good.
Awesome. Let's do it. So welcome to the big cosmic joke section. This is how we're going to end this episode. Stevie, I'm just going to ask you a whole bunch of questions.
Okay.
You can answer as spontaneously as you like. My mantra is first voice, best choice. Are you ready?
First voice, best choice.
Yeah,
wow.
The first thing that comes in, straight from your subconscious, go for it.
All right, go.
Ready?
Yeah.
So, question number 1. Which version of the world do you prefer? That aliens came down and crossbreeded with our DNA, or that we were once apes that slowly stood up and started making stuff?
1,000,000% aliens.
I knew you were going to say that.
Well, why did she even do it?
Okay, so if you had a superpower other than your creativity, what
Flying. I fly. I fly in my dreams.
Thought about this.
Yeah. Do you want a story, or are we doing it quick?
No, you can do a story.
I fucking love flying. Like, well, whenever I'm in my dreams and I get conscious in my dreams, and I'm like, the first thing I do is I take off.
And is it like a Superman above the clouds situation? Or
No,
what?
no, it's more flying around cityscapes and like you know, going up into rooms, getting up over things, and just that feeling of weightlessness. I get a bit scared going through walls, though. That becomes a little bit scary. And then if I go too high up, then I get really scared of falling, and then I fall.
Okay, so what would the reality look like if everyone could fly? Would it still be as exciting, or?
Yeah, I'd probably walk.
Take a road path.
No, I think it'd be great. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
It's the first time someone said flying, so I'm into it.
Yeah.
So what's one advancement from the future that you hope happens?
that we learn to live in loving respect for each other and our choices, learn how to thrive on a planet instead of fucking blow it up and, let our insecurities and our fears and our past shit that doesn't work for us keep on bringing us down, when we can live together and fucking explore space and time as a fucking one.
Amazing. Yeah, I hope that happens too. That's incredible. All right, let's do it. Let's work towards that. So what's one thing you would change about your past if you could?
I think we're good.
Yeah, good answer.
I think we're pretty good.
Yeah, it's all there for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you could hack into your higher self, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, what would you rewire in your favor?
Rewire in my favor. I'm drawing blank.
So, like, if you could hack something,
Yeah.
like knowledge from your higher self, ask spirit for something, or tune into God source energy, what would you ask for? Genie in the bottle type situation.
I would just say, let's do this together, that fella. Let's do it together.
Awesome.
Stick with me now.
Yeah, okay, perfect. I like it. So what's harder for you, patience or eating vegetables?
I love vegetables. I used to hate vegetables when I was a kid. I used to fucking despise them. I love them now because they're good for me, and your palate changes over the years. What was the other one? Patience. I've learned how to be patient, It didn't come naturally to me as a child. Neither did eating vegetables. But yeah, I eat vegetables. I love vegetables.
Okay.
I used to gag at cauliflower. I used to
Really?
gag at it. Couldn't do it.
And now it's okay.
And now it's okay.
Yeah, you can get a little bit creative with cauliflower too.
Yeah. I've been on a keto diet, and cauliflower is really big in a keto diet. And cauliflower mash with, parsley and fucking butter and cheese melted on top. So good.
Okay. All right, great. So what represents a bigger illusion to you, money or time?
Time.
Yeah.
I think time.
Yeah.
I think both. They're both pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say time.
Yeah. I think it's a huge... It's like one of the last pieces in the puzzle, in a way. Like money, we know, has been an illusion for a while, and now with crypto opening up and all these different things, like our attachment to money is changing, but time is really interesting.
Yeah, it's a real funny one, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. We'll keep on working on that. So do you agree or disagree with this statement? Whatever you resist, persists.
I agree. Resist, persist? Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't go away.
Yeah, it just keeps on coming back, circling around.
Well, it doesn't go away until you tend to it. You know what I mean? Some people make themselves sick because they're resisting for that long. You know what I mean? So I find that when I'm, especially working in my artwork, if I resist, if the signals are like, and I'm like, no, but that would change everything, and it'll keep on going for as long, bashing your head up against the wall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would definitely agree with that.
Awesome. Yeah, and beautiful stories there about how it sort of plays out for you. So finish this sentence. Creativity is...
one of the most amazing blessings that has ever occurred. It is an infinite river of possibilities. It will never run out. If all of us decided to drink from the magic and the mystery of the creative flow all at the same time, there will be enough for all. There will be enough for all. It is something that connects us to the power of God, and should we all tap into... I lost it. Lost it at God.
I love it.
No, creativity. Fucking thumbs up. Go get you some.
Oh, I can't wait to rewatch that. That's awesome. So when was the last time you followed your intuition and it backfired?
Intuition and it backfired. I don't know. I don't think I try to suppress those ones. Yeah? I'm not sure. That's an interesting question. Followed my intuition and it backfired. I'll tell you next time. I'll have a good think about it.
Still gathering the data.
Yeah, still gathering the data.
Yeah, it's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I think most people look into like their brain and see many different ways that intuition showed up, and that it was uncomfortable at first, but eventually it took us to where we needed to be.
Yeah.
So it's never really backfired. It's just sometimes uncomfortable.
Yeah, well, I think that what I struggled with, I was like, no, but intuition's like a good thing. You know, it always helps me out. But surely somewhere it didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Surely somewhere it you know, made me, you know, gave me something unexpected. But in my mind, like, my relationship with it is that it's something positive and it's something that always works out. So yeah, I'm not sure.
Let's stew on that one.
Yeah, let's stew.
So what power animal do you think represents your creativity?
Bowerbird. The bowerbird.
Yes.
For those of you that are not in Australia, it's an Australian animal? Australian bird?
Yeah, Australian bird.
So the bowerbird, let me see if I can even say anything about it. The bowerbird collects blue things, right, and creates nests out of anything that's blue. So it ends up being a lot of man-made objects because, you know, we're plastic everywhere.
You would love some of those objects.
Well, you know, the bowerbird in your house, he's...
Stanley.
Yeah, he's a bit cold tonight.
He shows up in this podcast quite a bit. He's quite
Oh,
famous here.
no
Yeah, we
way.
were talking about him last time actually, but
Well, I've never seen a bowerbird nest until I've seen yours.
yeah, pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that that bird's been there 11 years,
Right.
entertaining so many ladies
Right.
with all of his things.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's just wonderful. Okay, so power animal is the bowerbird. That represents your creativity.
Log it in.
Well done. We got through the big cosmic joke section.
Great.
That is the end of our podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. I will sign off with this to anyone that's listening out there. Remember that everything you do can be your art. So I hope you go out and create something beautiful today. Steve, thanks for sharing your time with us. I love you so much. Thanks for being here. This has been awesome.
Thank you.
And I believe you have a little surprise for us.
I do!
We're going to have a little
I
song.
totally forgot about it.
And we're going to film it.
I'm going to play, there's a piano in the corner of this massive studio. And I'm going to play a little song for everybody.
Great.
Is that okay? Can I play a song for
Let's
you?
cut to that.
I'm a little bit nervous because I had to play this in front of the entire school when I was a little kid. And, oh, gee whiz, I'm really just scared to do it. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, let's
is
do
that
it.
all right?
Let's
Yeah.
face our fears.
All right. Quiet in the back, please.